Hello, everybody. Wow, this is incredible. Seeing all of you come on and even seeing the registrations of those who were still going to be coming on a little bit later. It's like, it feels so good, like you said, Karen, to see friends and to see smiles and to see your lives and to see your homes. And I know we've all been in our homes for way too long and feeling a lot of uncertainty about this business. So thank you for the 30 minutes of time that you've promised to me. I'm happy to stick around longer, but I wanted to actually give you as much value as possible, not just to show you around the studio, although we are going to do that, but actually I've prepared something which I really truly hope will be helpful to you in 3 different ways. So by the end of our time together, you're going to know a little bit more about how to activate for you the positive aspects of uncertainty, because we're all dealing with so much uncertainty. I've got some thoughts and actually strategies in terms of how to turn that into a plus for yourself and your business. Secondly, I'm going to give you a model to think about and to implement in terms of how to integrate your personal growth as well as your professional growth, and how this whole concept of work and life integration can really manifest in a great way for you so that you have more capacity. And then the third thing is that I really hope that by the end of our time that you're going to actually feel more confident, more capable, and maybe even a little bit more excited about our industry, your business, and the future of this whole crazy, wonderful passion that we have for impacting audiences around the world. Now, I'm going to present these ideas and this information in a way that, is my only signature way that I do it, which is all in, with not just my words, but with my actions, modeling these principles, and actually even physically demonstrating a few of those things. Starting there, speaking of like testing myself, I even bought my own lectern. Can you believe that? And so I now own a lectern in my studio, which is, of course, the best way to illustrate uncertainty, because our foundations have been rocked. What we thought was so stable, stationary, and just going for our businesses has been hit with a lot of uncertainty. And we know that that's normal. I wrote Off Balance on purpose to remind people that we don't ever achieve balance, because it's not what you get, it's what you do. You're balancing, you're making adjustments all the time. And so the question isn't how do you stop the uncertainty, it's how do you position yourself on top of it. And so here we go. Let's just do this thing. All right. And so if you're watching close, you can tell I'm not balanced. I'm balancing. I'm making constant adjustments and corrections. I'm working really, really hard. Oh. And after all this work, after all this effort, I'm still right here. Like I'm still in the exact same spot. Okay? Now this is how most people deal with uncertainty. They say, when my foundation is wobbling, it's shaking, it's cracking, how do I protect myself and stay in that little space? I'm going to work harder to do it, to keep what I have and do what I know how to do. And other people say out of the uncertainty is the opportunity. If you can see it, and then if you can lean in and go off balance on purpose to initiate a change, a positive change for the better, right? And so we're going to help you do that today in a more intentional way. But I'd first like to just check in with everybody and to see how you're doing, how you're feeling. And so we're going to implement a tool. Now, this tool you may be familiar with is something called Menti.com. And so what I'd like you to do is to take your device, your phone, open another browser if you want, and go to this website, Menti.com. Okay? Let's everybody do this now so we can all participate. And then there's a number at the bottom here, 467057. Enter that number, 467057, and then you'll see a question. It's a very simple question. It says, what one word best describes your current state of being right now? Like, how are you feeling about life, about business, about what's going on? Just so we can capture a snapshot of what's on your mind and what's in your heart with this group. So if you will, start putting those words into that app. And we're going to begin to see a word cloud kind of develop here. We've got a mix of excited and encouraged, overwhelmed, anxious. I think we all can see that. More excitement than overwhelm, which is a good thing. Crazy, yeah, absolutely. Lots and tons of craziness, disruptions, Gratitude, I love it. We're feeling grateful. I know I am. Definitely feeling grateful. Foggy. Yeah, we need to see through that fog and get some clarity. All right. Yeah, this is good. Overwhelmed definitely is taking center stage. So let's see if we can kind of work on that a little bit. And I think that's about good. So back to me. All right. Now, if you would, Natalie is doing a phenomenal job here. And if you could, Natalie, give us the gallery view again, just kind of so I could see everybody's faces and take a good look at who's out there in the audience. All right. Yeah, just basically I wanted to make sure you're all still here. So that's great. All right, back to me. And so, this time of uncertainty and overwhelm has gotten me to thinking about my roots. Like, really, how did I get in this business? Why did I get in this business? And really, how did I develop my skills and my passion for life and living? I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, kind of like my good buddy, Brian Palmer. I was actually on the southwest side, 57th and Pulaski, in a little Polish neighborhood on a 28-foot lot where two houses were so close together you could touch them both, just like this. There was our house, and then there was Grandma's house over here. And my mom and my grandmother were both entrepreneurs. My mother ran a drapery business out of her basement, and Mom ran an art studio, and she painted, and she did art shows and festivals and taught classes and even had a pet portrait business. And what she always said to me is, she said, Dan, it doesn't matter what you do. What matters is how you do it. In other words, your profession, the choice of how you spend your life, in terms of a vocation or a job, is way less important than the way you engage with that, like your passion, your commitment. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately because the truth is, what we do has changed. No question. There are no events, there are no stages, there's no live group gatherings of any magnitude. We're trying to figure out this virtual space, and so the what of what we're doing is changing. The what of what you're doing is changing. You're working at home, you're trying to figure things out, develop plans for your business that are based upon this shaky foundation. You're thinking about how you can connect with clients and provide them value. You want something to sell. It's like, what can we do not only to give you value, but also to create the revenue, because that's so important to our business. And so what I want you to understand is that it's not really about reinventing yourself. I don't want you to reinvent you. I want you to redeploy who you are. Like, the how of what you're doing this is still the same. The who of who you are, the passion in your heart is every bit, in fact, more important than it ever has been before, but we just need to put it into action. So I want you to double down on you. And the way you're going to do that is by getting absolutely comfortable being in this uncertain state. I'd like to show you how to do that. So let's go to class. Here we go. So the problem is, when most people deal with uncertainty, when they feel uncertain about something, they tend to feel uncertain about everything, as if their whole life is in chaos. Their whole life is in shambles. Their past is irrelevant. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore. They begin to question whether their values are even important or their history or their education. And you have to know that's not true. Like, who you are is incredibly important. Your past is absolutely relevant. Everything counts. All of your past and history serves you now and into the future. Now, you just have to figure out a new and different way to do that. You don't have to know exactly how, but you first have to trust that it does. And so at any moment, good, bad, like in any circumstance, there's not either complete certainty or complete uncertainty, but there's this idea of a spectrum of certainty. There are some things that we know absolutely, like your name, you know your past, your preferences, your values and principles, what you love, who you love, right? And so we have to understand, hey, we know a lot. And then there are other things that are very uncertain, that are, in fact, not only uncertain, but unknowable. You can't know exactly how long this economic downturn will last. You can't know exactly when people are going to come back to meetings or when they're going to trust to be in different groups. And by the way, that's going to be completely different person to person. There's going to be a lot of different variety geographically and personally in terms of when that comes back online. And so it's not that it's, that you just can't know it now. It's uncertain at this moment, but it will eventually play out. And so all we ever have in life, in any time, not just this one, is some certainty, right? Some certainty. That's where you live. That's where you operate. You've got some. And so the question is, how can you be confident, capable, happy, fulfilled, and then you can make plans and move forward and serve others having only some certainty? Okay, here are the 3 strategies I promised you. The first is to claim your certainties. So you've got to claim what you do know, right? And write it down. In other words, when you get real specific and say, all right, this is my inventory of my past experiences, my strengths, my lessons that I've learned the hard way and the easy way, the great people in my life, my relationships, my passion, my people, and we know these things in our life with absolute certainty. Get clear on that. It will begin to shift the way you feel. Secondly, embrace the unknown, right? Embrace the unknown, because when you think about the uncertainties of the future, it's not just that they're uncertain. It's really like they're unfolding. They're unknowable. There's no way from this present moment that we can know exactly how that's going to turn out. And imagine just for a second, if you were a person who could never enjoy a movie, for example, without knowing the ending in advance. You didn't know the outcome, so I can't enjoy this. I'm just in this constant state of anxiety because I don't know how this movie is going to end. Of course, that's ridiculous. But again, that's how most people live their life. They say, unless I feel like totally committed and confident, and I know that this is going to work, I'm not even going to try it. I'm not even going to start because I have no guarantee of how it's going to turn out. That's not the way to do it. We embrace what we don't know, maybe even itemize that, get clear about it, and go, okay, this is unknowable, and I will discover it in time. But then the third way, which is super important, is to create more certainty, right? So you're going to create more certainty. And the way you do that is by prescribing for yourself a very intentional plan of improvement. In the midst of the chaos and the uncertainty that's all around me, and I can't know certain things right now, I do know that something about me is going to get better. Like, I'm going to improve one aspect of my life, multiple aspects of my life. I'm going to build something. I'm going to create something. This studio is my response and my family's response to this idea. We know that we can create something that will help us now and last and be a new capability going into the future. And so the way you do that is you test, right? It's how do you respond to the test? And we have a lot of tests coming at us from a lot of different directions, and you might feel very, very tested, as if they're all coming at you, and you have to run this gauntlet of uncertainty. But really the key is this: test yourself. When we take intentional control of our circumstances and we say, you know what, I'm not going to wait to see what life brings me in terms of tests. I'm going to prescribe my own tests, and I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to make it challenging. And I'm going to put myself in situations where I have to prove that I believe what I say I believe. I have to prove that I could do more than I already can. For me, this was so important, again, growing up, when I first discovered the physicality of what I do, specifically juggling. Juggling is an awesome and amazing skill, model. It's a great brain activity, great physical activity, and it's a great lesson in terms of how you can always get better. You can always grow. The more you do, you have to take on that next challenge or next trick. And every time you have to prepare for the inevitable reality, you're going to drop a lot and pick up those drops. And every time you do, you get a little bit closer to that next breakthrough moment. But there are some incredible principles that I learned from this that I want to bring into our next phase, which is teaching you this model. I'll meet you in the action room. All right. So here we are back in the action room, and I'm going to just go to the 5-ball pattern, right? Because the whole key is the more you do, the more you can do. When I was working on 3 and struggling with that, I started to try 4-ball juggling, and the 4-ball juggling was getting really, really good. And the truth is, I never really got the hang of 4 until I tried 5, right? So it's about leaning into that next new challenge and pushing your limits. But when you add more to what you're already doing, or when you're challenged to do more right now, the whole key is actually 2 things. First, you have to keep looking up, which is about managing your vision. By the way, that concept spectrum of certainty, spectrum comes from the Latin word specter, which means to look, right? So the question is, where are you looking? Are you looking at the negativity of the news and the uncertainty and the chaos and the worst case scenarios? Or are you looking at what you're doing and what's possible and what your targets and goals actually are? Because if I'm looking up there and I'm acting up there and I can monitor, am I hitting those targets? Then, the catches start to happen. But if I look down at my hands, I'm going to get overwhelmed and I can't see what's coming next. So it's this discipline to look up even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. But then the second thing is that when you add more, you actually have to slow down. You have to slow down physically and slow down mentally. And the reason is, if you get it all up in the air at once, it all comes down at once, right? And you can't do it all at once. You can only manage one action at a time, one thought at a time, one learning process, right? At one moment. Moments, that's all we ever get. Are the moments. The quality of your life is your ability to unpack the totality of the gift of the moments that you've experienced. That's who you are. And so with juggling, it's again about slowing it down to let those moments expand. And then you can begin to see the pattern. The pattern, right? And I really want you to get this. So at this point, we're going to implement some technology and make it much more abundantly clear. We are almost ready, and lights, please. Thank you. All right. Here we go. And now, you can see that pattern. Some say it looks like the wings of a butterfly. I prefer to see an infinity sign. Watch one of the balls, the one that's a slightly different color, as it arcs back and forth, crossing from hand to hand, reaching the tops, going through the center, that infinite loop, going back and forth. The creation of a pattern, the understanding of how they all fit together is what enables greater action. All right. Again, compressing this so that we can get you as much as we can, as quickly as we can, right? I wanted to show you that so that we can then show you this. The 5 spheres of the pattern really correspond to this model that I promised you, which are the 5 spheres of your life. I teach this in my speeches, in my book. What are they? They're your work, right? We're thinking about that right now. Your relationships, your health, your spirit, and your interests or your passions, who you are, what you love. This is all who you are. And the key is that they're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to compartmentalize your life and protect your time in each area, because they're all connected. In fact, if we could connect, say, work and relationships with this idea of a lifeline, that line presents the question, how do they really connect? We work to take care of those we love. We go back to our relationships. We get re-energized. But when life's in motion, it's stretched, it's tested. That's happening right now. But if we can connect the work that we love to the people that we love and strengthen that lifeline, then we can withstand those tests much easier. How about this one? Does your job support your desire to be healthy? Or does your job challenge your health in certain ways? And if so, what are you going to do about that? Because it's just not sustainable. So you've been given this gift to examine these types of questions. How can we get more congruent? How about work and spirit? Are you practicing your spiritual principles and pursuing your passions and learning about your passions of your coworkers and your clients and helping to re-engage with what they love about life? Are we in relationships that support our desire to be healthy and to grow spiritually? You see, it's all connected. Are you sharing your passions and interests with those you love and learning about theirs as well? So when we stop thinking about compartmentalizing life and protecting our time in each area, we realize it's all connected. And again, that is the gift of this moment. That is the gift of now, is we actually have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. We've been compressed, living at home, working with those we love, confronted with the reality of our life and our past decisions and saying, this worked, this didn't. It's time to make a shift. It's time to make a change. And from now on, we can make those choices and decisions with the totality and the concept of how it all fits together and the reality that you're never done because there is this infinite path of learning. You know, the concept of an infinite loop, this infinite potential, is something, again, from my past. It's weird how things stick with you. It was 8th grade when my parents called my teachers in for a conference, and they said, he's doing okay. He's making good grades. He's just not reaching his full potential, right? And I remember thinking, that's just like ridiculous. Why would I reach my full potential in 8th grade, right? But the reality is you never do. You never reach your full potential because it's infinite. It's limitless. You know, the more you learn, the more you can learn. The more you create, the more you can create. The more you move, the more you can move. The more you love, the more you can love. So this concept of this infinite test is awesome because it really means like no matter what has happened in our past, again, it all counts, it all serves you to create something new and better. And if this becomes your default setting, is like, what can I do to test myself? What's next? Then even challenges like now, even like the moments that do seem extra difficult can suddenly seem manageable, right? In other words, I've upped my commitment, so let's all up yours, right? Up your commitment. Now, even with knives, it's not many things at once. It's one at a time. So I'm not racing, I'm slowing down, letting go, which is huge in my business, and making it happen. But it's an exercise, not only in excellence, but in like time management, slowing down, discipline. I let the spaces expand, and then the spaces expand for me. I can use them in new and different ways. Even take things to new and higher levels. Oh, yeah. Okay. But the whole key is you never really know where the next test is going to come from. You just don't. Okay. Cool. Tell you what, I'm going to check this out, see where this goes. But we have one more question for you in another word cloud. So I hope you kept that browser app open, mentee.com. In just a second, you're going to go there and there's going to be another question waiting for you to answer. And hopefully by now the feelings have shifted in a different way. I'm going to go check out the word cloud up here. See ya. All right. I'm seeing excited, potential, enlightened, encouraged. Yeah, this is nice. Challenged. That was intentional. We wanted you to be a little bit more challenged. Yeah, fantastic. Maybe one or two. And excited is the big word in the middle. I'm excited too. I really am. Let's come back to me. You know, I've really not felt this way about my business in a long time. Honestly, I'd been kind of on autopilot, showing up for events. I mean, still engaged with each client, making each one super special, doing my homework. But it had become something I could do naturally and relatively easily. This is not easy. This is hard. This makes me nervous. The same way this business used to scare me when I first stepped on stage. And I like that. I like feeling re-engaged about challenging myself. You know, it's about the look. What am I focused on? What are you focused on? Are we managing our spectrum of vision? Are we seeing a trajectory that even in the midst of disruption, we can get better? It's about the leaning in. Are you creating that next opportunity? Testing yourself. And then it's about the life that you're living, the look, the lean, and the life, because if your life becomes more congruent, you have greater capacity and greater control. You know, recently I was in Chicago again. This was before the pandemic. And I was working for a client. I had a rental car, and I decided to drive back to our old house. I hadn't seen it in over 30 years. And I pulled up in front of that house on 57th Street, and it was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. There was actually, my grandmother's house was still there, and the chestnut tree I used to climb was now gone. But I was looking at it thinking, wow, this is just so amazing, and I had so many rich memories. I even looked into the backyard, down the gangway between the houses, and I was just standing in front of it, just reminiscing about all these incredible times I lived here as a child. And suddenly, the light comes on. The front door opens. And who comes out but Mrs. Metelsky, the woman that we sold the house to like 34 years ago, and her son, who, by the way, has his shirt off and he's bowed up like this, kind of a bigger dude. And he says, "Can I help you?" And it was then I realized, dude, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I totally just startled these people. They don't know who I am. They think I'm casing their house. And so I just, in my most gracious voice that I could possibly muster, I said, "Mrs. Metelsky, it's me, Danny. I used to live in this house. I grew up here. In fact, my family sold you this house so many years ago, and I was just back in Chicago, back in the area. I didn't mean to startle you, but I just came here to see it again." And I was just imagining all of those memories of my past and remembering my grandparents, and that's why I'm here. And there was this long pause. And she said to me in this beautiful Polish accent, "You don't live here anymore." Like, I was like, oh my gosh. I was shocked out of my vision. This little nostalgic bubble hovering over my head, it just kind of popped instantly. And I was like, "You're right, I'm sorry, and I'm leaving." And I got in my car driving away, thinking to myself, first, like, that was really rude. But then my second thought was, and she's absolutely right. Like, I don't live here anymore. And the reality is, none of us do. We might love the way this business used to be. We may love the way our clients used to just naturally know what to do and how to engage us and what we could say and who we could book and who we could trust. And you know what? We don't live there anymore, and that's okay, because we have now, and we have you. And if you will test yourself in these 3 ways, it's going to be okay. Try something harder. Try something harder. That's the first one. If you think what you're doing now is difficult, prescribe a bigger test. And then just watch how you grow. Secondly, say something kinder. What's going to be needed in life and in this business more than ever before is empathy. Say something kinder. Understand the power of your influence in your words. Validate others, because we all operate from this like precarious sense of confidence now. It's like very fragile. And then the third is give something greater. Give something greater. When you give more, you get more. And so if you want to participate in this flow of abundance, go first. All right? And I promise, if you will do something harder, say something kinder, give something greater, make that your normal, and you're just going to become something more.